Welcome to the Street Scene Scrutiny Committee. First item we've got on our agenda today is apologies for absence.
I've got no apology, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that. Does anybody have anything to disclose of a personal or prejudicial interest? Take that one as a no then. Third is, do members have any declarations to make about the whip votes and declaration of party whips? No, again. And do we have item 4, any public questions? No.
Public questions, Chair.
So straight on to item 5. We've got the report, which has been kindly prepared for us by the Cabinet member, Councillor Anderson, and his hard-working officers. So could somebody introduce it, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, for the invitation today to the scrutiny meeting. And I'm sure you've all looked at the agenda item. The purpose of this report provides an overview of how Swansea Council manages the street scene, covering public spaces, cleansing waste and highways, with a focus on cross-departmental collaboration and communications. The aim is to inform scrutiny and support future policy and operational. There are 3 key points of collaborative management. Street scene management is shared responsibility between cleansing waste and highways. The regularly operational briefings and interdepartmental meetings ensure coordination, especially for large events or emergencies. They also share digital platforms, messaging tools, and messaging tools are being developed to streamline information sharing and incident tracking. Operational practices, team works together on targeted cleanups, deep cleans, and responses to fly tipping or hazardous waste. Also, we intelligence from councillors, residents, and frontline staff helps direct resources where most needed. Enforcement teams provide feedback to operational staff, strengthening the link between reporting and actions. The community engagement, the council engages with the public through public reporting tools, consultations, and information campaigns. Social media is used to highlight enforcement activities and promote key messages on street cleanliness and waste responsibilities. Achievements, evidence shows improved response times, more efficient resource use, and positive feedback from councillors and public. And a culture of shared ownership and accountability is being embedded across the departments. I don't think you want me to go any further on that, Chair. I'm quite happy if you are to go into questions.
Thank you. I was beginning to enjoy the sound of your voice, but we'll start off with a question. Oh, Councillor Stevens, of course, how remiss of me.
Thank you, Chair.
I've dropped a clanger, haven't I? I haven't asked everybody to introduce themselves around the table yet, have I? So if we could start with Cyril and we'll work around the table.
Yes, I'm Councillor Cyril Anderson, Cabinet Member for Community Services.
Good afternoon, I'm Fran Williams and I'm Team Leader for Waste Enforcement.
Afternoon, Jonathan Willicombe, I'm the Highways Area Manager.
Jonathan Hurley, Street Lighting Manager.
Yeah, Councillor Andrew Stevens, Cabinet Member for Environment and Infrastructure.
Mark Wade, Director of Police.
There we are. Tony Fitzgerald, Councillor for Pentlegare, the centre of the world, and got a whole host of features I wish to raise at this meeting this afternoon.
A hard one to follow, isn't it? Councillor Peter May, Uplands Ward.
Rachel Percival, Scrutiny Officer.
Liz Jordan, Scrutiny Officer.
And good afternoon, and my name is Councillor Michael Locke, representing Sketty Ward.
Okay, Councillor Stevens, sorry about that interruption, but please good.
Thank you, Chair. I got to remember what I was going to say now, because, but yeah, no, thanks for the last minute invitation to the meeting itself, actually, because, but yeah, no, just I think Councillor Anderson covered everything in the report there, but it's, you know, the report is I'm here from that for the highways angle, for the highways aspects of the report, because it's very much a joint working effort from myself and Councillor Anderson and a number of the teams that will cover street scene. But yeah, so just want to put on record my thanks as well to all officers from Highways Waste, Parks and Cleansing, just for helping pull together the report and for the team coming along today as well, Chair. So.
Thanks for both coming cabinet members and also officers as well. And I know it was last minute for yourself, but thanks for coming along. Okay, first question we've actually got is about collaboration. Councillor Anderson touched on it. When there are scheduled or emergency works, such as patching or road closures, what sort of arrangements are made to collaborate between departments to ensure that refuse and recycling collections proceed on time in relation to the planned work?
Good afternoon, Chair. You okay if I take this one? It's Rachel.
Yeah, of course.
Hi, good afternoon, members. Apologies, couldn't make it in person. So what happens on sort of like this on, you know, we've got two sort of different types of roadworks. One will be obviously the plan where we're given well advanced warning if it's, you know, pre-arranged street works, and there'll be notices given from highways out to all the relevant sections so that arrangements can be put in place. Clearly sometimes emergencies arise, and that's where then, you know, it can be a bit of a catch-up our side when we're trying to then just get things organised. The recent sinkhole, I think, is a good example whereby, you know, we weren't able to get down a particular street. It was an emergency. There were delays, but then we are working then with highways and also then with residents and local ward members to make sure that we're able to get that as soon as possible, and it is safe for the residents and also our crews to get to the waste. So on a business as usual, planned street works, there's good information given in advance, arrangements can be made in a timely manner. For more emergency type works, then clearly sometimes there is a little bit of disruption, and we'll do all we can to get on top of it as soon as possible.
Thank you for your very full answer on that. I have one question before I bring Councillor White in, who's politely on the waiting on the screen there. So patchworks are scheduled. Ward members determine them in advance and give the team a schedule. We've had the patch team visiting. They did Riddings Park Road last Wednesday, and despite our efforts, the pink bags are still there because crews couldn't access the road. So could you either take that as a service request, please? And I'm sure that's just the 1% of where departments didn't collaborate.
I can take that back to the service. Can you just remind me the name of the street again? Sorry, Councillor May.
Yes, it's Riddings Park Road.
Riddings Park.
Thank you very much for that. So Councillor White, you have a question to follow up.
Yes, Chair, follows very much on from you. We did have disruption last week due to patch within the Plasmon area of our ward on a Tuesday, which was collection day as well. But I did send an email through to the area supervisor to make him aware that obviously there probably would be disruption because the patch team were in the area on that day. So just wondering whether any sort of follow-up could be put in place with the patch team
possibly the Friday before, just to make them aware that, you know, what days they're going to go into areas where they could be possible. So there's a sort of backup in place. That's just a thought, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor White. A very valid one too. Next, we're going to hear from Councillor Jenkins. Councillor Di Jenkins, please.
Okay, Chair.
Oh,
thank you, Chair. I just called up my question now. Just bear with me.
oh, yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
Councillor Jenkins. We've actually got Mark Tribe and Councillor James to put late hands up. Before we get to you, we'll just take their point.
That's correct. Okay, that's fine. That's fine,
yeah,
Chair. Thank you.
No problem. Councillor Tribe.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. When utilities intend performance of roadworks, BT or Welsh Water, do they communicate any this work to the highways section of the council? If there's any roadworks or disruption locally, our highway section are excellent in transmitting that information. Not so much so with BT or Welsh Water. I just wondered if they communicated to our highway section so they can impart that information to us, because the only time we find out about it is when they're actually digging the road up. Thank you.
Yeah. They notify us depending on the size of the work on the time flow a sliding scale notification. If it's a small scale work, it's notified 3 days in advance. If it's larger, then it's anything from a month to 6 months beforehand. So the smaller jobs, which can cause disruption because they're putting in a new valve, for instance, or a new stop tap for somebody, can cause a lot of disruption. But we only get a small bit of notice because it's only a minor works it's classed as rather than a major work. And this is the problem we have. And to get that information out there in that small time scale is quite difficult.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan.
Okay, Councillor Linda James, please.
Sorry, Chair, just to add that to that one, and in terms of what Councillor Tribe asked as well, you know, I've always found our streetwork section extremely responsive. If an instance, as Jonathan has said, has arisen last minute, so certainly always worth for to contact officers as well.
Okay, thank you, Cabinet Member. Councillor Linda James, please.
Can I just make 2 points? First of all, to pick up on what's just been discussed, I've found the email that comes through on a Friday afternoon with streetworks extremely useful. It's not always 100% accurate. Things do get put in, but I presume they're emergencies. But it is there and it is available to councillors to notify and warn their residents if there are big issues likely to happen. The other point I wanted to come back to was the collaboration. And I just wondered if there is any collaboration between the departments that are cutting the verges and the litter picking, because it seems to me that it would be much better if the verges were litter picked first before they're cut. And then we only have a limited amount of pieces of litter and not multiple pieces of litter on the verge.
Tracy,
Who wants to take that one?
Yeah. Tracy, can you take that?
Yeah, I can take it, but it'll be caveated. I did let colleagues in Scrutiny know that Jeremy Davis is unable to attend today. The level of detailed knowledge is stronger with Jeremy. This service has only been with me for the last 9 months or so. When you say cutting verges, do you mean on the normal road side or do you mean on sort of dual carriageways?
I'm talking about the normal road signs.
Sure. Okay.
It looks a mess coming across the commons and through the lanes with all these bits of litter that they've all been chopped up.
Okay. I will take that back and then get some further clarification for you. My understanding is, well, my knowledge is that they are the same team. The litter picking and the cutting of those verges are the same team within Parks and Cleansing. quite often the litter will be blown in and stuck and moved around, and it does then, need to be, as the verge is coming in and being cut with a machine, the detailed level of litter picking by the side of the road isn't always available, because the team that needs to do that will have to apply for quite often a road closure if it's a busy road. So that's why I asked the question about what type of road we were talking about. I do understand the point you're trying to make. They are the same team, but it changes all the time in terms of where litter is being either fly tipped and blown around, which might not correspond with when those teams are on any particular road, but we wouldn't want to not conduct the maintenance that's scheduled as well. So it can be a bit chicken and egg at times. In an ideal world, absolutely, but it's an entire city and county that's needing to be routed and scheduled. So quite often it doesn't work as neatly as it might in the respect you mean for specific areas.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Chair, can I come in and just give a bit more information? I think you on the lanes coming in over the Gower, we have just introduced a new long roads team where they are committed to the roads that's got no pavements. I think you will find an improvement in that service. Going along with the CWATs, this new team have done such good work. I have asked for an extra additional money to have a second team put in. So I think you will find where these long roads teams comes in on the rural roads, you will find a lot better service where they will be picking up the litter before they mow the sides of the roads.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Anderson, for your reassurance on that. Have we got any more on this? Because I'm anxious to move on to Councillor Jenkins' questions, who's waiting.
Just as a follow-up on the cleansing, I came down the A483, obviously, today. It's the filthiest I have seen it. Central Reservation and all the verges, both sides of the road. It would be nice to know for each councillor to have a schedule of when roads in their patches are going to be dealt with. Because it's so awful at the moment on the A483 that something needs to be done yesterday. The other point I want to make, we talk here about collaboration between waste, highways and cleansing. There's another unit in Swansea Council which is impacted, and that is planning. There are a lot of issues that I've got which are caused by planning, and it's then up to highways and waste and cleansing to sort the problems out. But it's planning needs to get feedback from this group, as it were, as to what they're doing wrong. I can give you examples. I got plenty of examples. I don't want to waste the time, but I can, if anyone wants to talk to me afterwards, I can give you countless numbers of issues in Pentlegare, all down to planning, failures, hard words.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Fitzgerald. That'll be the last question on this question. Would officers like to respond to it, please?
I'm certainly happy to take that one offline as the director responsible for that area, so that we can move on at this particular point, Chair. But you're certainly happy to speak after the meeting, Councillor.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, thank you for being patient, Councillor Di Jenkins. You've got two questions coming up now, so let's have the first one, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Okay, so do you want me to ask one at a time or together?
I'd go one at a time.
Okay, so the first one is on the report 3.1, collaboration, communication and information there. My question on that, it says regarding the regular operational briefing briefings and interdepartmental meetings are held to coordinate activities, share dates and planned works. So I asked please may we have a copy of the minutes of the last meeting to get a flavour of what was said, please, and if possible, it was put then, could we have these before today's meeting? So I apologies if I've been out today doing some work, but if you sent them, apologies. If not, can you send them, or have you got any anything to say on that, please?
Hey, who's going to take that one?
I can come in on that one. So, yeah, when the report was drafted, as the nature of the scrutiny, it is a cross-service report, but you know, it is very difficult to have 3 or 4 or 5 people writing a report and get it to be coherent. We did note the question that came in from yourself, Councillor Jenkins. Thank you. My understanding was that we would be responding to the questions in the meeting, and apologies, we haven't sent minutes in advance, you haven't missed anything, but I can share with you that there are no minuted meetings of maybe the nature that you might have imagined. So the individuals in the various services, they will brief and call and pull people into meetings as and when something needs to be discussed and thought about, maybe a response to storms, maybe an acknowledgement of building works coming up, maybe in response to the fact that a sinkhole has appeared, or maybe because we've got some new teams working and there needs to be some introductions. But there isn't, in the sense that you have requested, a regular meeting that brings all the officers from the different departments together just as a standard, okay, it's Wednesday morning, let's come together. They come together over issues, and they tend to not have these sort of scheduled, minuted interdepartmental meetings. There are a couple of examples across the council where there are minuted meetings of interdepartmental ways of working, but they don't tend to be for services that are as responsive as the ones we're describing today. So they tend to be ones where, oh, maybe in next month we can think about doing this, or maybe in our future service plan we will work like this. But the teams tend to work together in a responsive way. So I'm sorry to say we don't have minuted meetings to share with you.
Okay, is it okay if I come back on that, Chair?
Yeah, come back briefly on there. We've got lots of questions, but I'm sure it's relevant.
Yeah, okay. Well, the report says regular operational briefings. So, you know, it's disappointing that you don't have them if it says that in the report. And
I didn't
also,
say we didn't have the briefings. I said we don't minute them. Just point of clarification. Thank you.
Well, I thought you said that you do have regular operational briefings then, is that correct?
Yes, we do. We don't minute them.
So how if we don't minute them, how do we know that everything has taken place, and if there's any room for improvement if they don't?
Because the briefings take place in response to a situation. As I said, they tend to be reactive. The situation needs to be responded to, and that response is usually within a 24-hour or 48-hour period, as opposed to a minute in meetings, circulating them, everyone agreeing them, and then acting on them. The briefings and the teams tend to come together in response to tasks that need doing.
Okay, Day, I think that's all you're going to get on that one. Could you move on to questions 3, please?
Sure. So the next one is 3.2, and the question is, how regular are the meetings, who attends, and what were the top 3 issues addressed in the last meeting, and on what date? That's paragraph 3.2.
Thank you. I'll pick this one up again, and the reason I'll do so is because the paragraphs were written by Jeremy in my service area, but I'd welcome any colleagues elsewhere who attend these meetings might also add some value to my response. But the information I can share with you is that the meetings do take place regularly, but they are flexible, and it's all to do with what's happening that week or that day. So they're very much influenced by operationally what's going on. They tend to be group leaders, team leaders, area managers, supervisors across cleansing, waste and highways teams. Recently, I'm told the discussions have focused on coordinating around planned works and road closures or fly tipping hotspots, but also the joint verge maintenance was brought up. And they also look at joint responsibilities around verge maintenance, tree obstructions, and how to manage, you know, where you have those sort of peak explosions through storms or incidents with that regular expectation of ongoing cleansing and maintenance as well, and collections. So it's quite a dynamic scenario. I don't attend those meetings. I'm doing my best to represent our team leader, group manager, strategic manager in his absence. But some, as I mentioned prior to the scrutiny, it may be that some of these things will need a follow-up because he's not able to be with us today. If anyone who attends those meetings wants to jump in, then feel free.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Can I come in? Although I wouldn't go to the one specifically referenced here, Councillor Jenkins perhaps is after, but I do, both myself and Councillor Anderson do have regular catch-ups, regular briefings with not just with the wider teams of various elements of our portfolio, but specifically with directors, heads of service, and meet regularly just with the teams in general. Anyways, there's a lot. We do meet regularly. I'm not one for taking minutes. I do take notes. So whether that's where the confusion is perhaps happening here, I would share my notes, but I can't. I don't believe any would actually be able to decipher them if I did. So, yeah, there's certainly actions do follow those meetings, and they are followed up on, and a lot is done via email and Teams and various other formats. So.
I think to sort of square the circle on this one, are there any regular meetings that are in fact minuted, or are they all just done on this basis? Because I fully appreciate a formal minute doesn't have to be taken when you're just having a conversation with somebody about something that's ongoing. And I think Jonathan Willikins wants to come in on that one.
Yeah, just to say that I attend some of these coordination meetings, and we work with parks closely. We have litter picking closures. We liaise them to make sure that they can come in as well and do their flailing and cutting back as well. So we do liaise it quite closely, to be honest. And there are minutes every 6 months roughly. At the start of the programme as well, at the start of the year, we have meetings to discuss this. I think there's a meeting scheduled for the next couple of months before we kick off the new growth season as well. So.
Good. On that scheduled 6-monthly meeting, could Councillor Jenkins have a copy of those minutes?
I asked for a copy of those minutes if they exist. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. We now move on to Councillor Peter Black. Councillor Peter Black, you've got a couple of questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter. Have you considered having ward area-based multidisciplinary teams to improve response and use local knowledge? I'm thinking in terms of having the same people based in a particular area so that they can work together across all the disciplines and work more effectively with local community.
Looking around, who wants to take that one?
I'll do my best, Chair.
Thanks.
And I'm very aware of my shortcomings being a new head of service in this particular area. But yeah, my knowledge is that there is already an area-based approach. We already have, we know we have the CWAT teams, the cleansing ward operative teams. And in terms of how they work, we don't have, I think, in the way you mean, Councillor Black, there are not dedicated teams to each particular area because the workforce has to be coordinated and scheduled across such a huge area in terms of the city and county that, you know, to have a dedicated, almost like a kind of mini council service per ward would quickly become both unsustainable in the amount of staff that we would need to manage and to support and to deploy, but also it removes that flexibility as well for us to, you know, be as efficient as we possibly can across multiple areas.
It
So
doesn't have
at
to be
this
per ward. It
stage,
could be a group of wards, you know. I'm just think, you know, so it doesn't have to be each ward.
well, in that respect,
Yeah.
we do have an area-based
Yeah.
approach. So forgive me, we definitely do. Our cleansing services are broken down into Rhytic Gower, for example. We have North and South Gower, but we have pretty much the city and county is carved into 4 areas from a cleansing perspective. The city centre itself is then broken down into 4 areas. Gower is broken down. So there is an area approach, area-based approach in respect of the cleansing and maintenance, but not for the wider services that we're looking at here. I can't answer for highways and for waste, obviously.
Okay.
Hey, do you want to ask your next one, Peter?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
What is the timeline on the new shared digital platforms, and can you tell us more about the new software?
I can do it from a waste perspective, Councillor May.
Councillor Black.
So, Councillor Black, sorry. I was talking to the chair then as well. Apologies. So last summer when we came to a scrutiny, we advised when we're talking about the waste performance that a CRM and movement to a digital system was absolutely integral to us to improve our data and performance management. That is still the aspiration. We have rolled out the proprietary system to the commercial waste service with the changes of the new business recycling regulations. So in terms of the domestic side, it has been delayed because we've been waiting to get approval and recruitment for a post to take this forward. We had approval for the post just before Christmas, and the team are now going out for recruitment. So we are looking at the timescales is going to be, you know, procuring and implementing it in the next sort of like 6 to 7 months, and then building the system, which is a huge job in terms of putting all the rounds in, and then going live sometime over 2027. So for waste, yes, it is further behind than we'd like it to be, but I'd rather do it properly and get it fully integrated within the service, and that will give us dashboards on missed collections, complaints about quality of collections per crew per day, so we can then really start to improve and drive forward a better quality service for our residents.
So is this software just for cleansing and waste? Is there a separate software then for highways and for other aspects of the street scene clearing service?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I mean, would it not make more sense to have a coordinated software? So, which, you know, I mean, it just seems to me that having you're creating digital silos, if you like.
Yeah. And I'm not sure what highways operate,
No.
but sometimes what you find is that what highways have from an asset management system is bespoke to them, and they might have a waste module, but it might not be as good, or a waste system like the one that we're looking at is brilliant for waste and cleansing, but might not do what highways need it to do, because the service demands and the flow of the work is so diverse and varied. It's very difficult to find one that does everything.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously understand highways obviously will have a database of reported potholes, for example, but highways will also deal with things like obstruction on the highway, which could be fly tip material, or it could be a caravan or something like that. So in a sense, it's a very similar type of complaint in that area, which they might want to, your software might work for.
I can't speak on what the highways use. I just know from previous experience that the highway system tends to be very much led from managing the asset as well, in terms of the condition surveys and being able to, you know, really manage the asset and to give valuable data. So it's not just a CRM system. And again, that's what we're looking for our waste system. It'll be around optimizing tool as well as a customer management tool. It's so much more. It becomes part of managing the service holistically.
Okay.
It's a similar.
Tracy, you wanted to come in on that, did you?
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say it's a similar situation with parks and cleansing. So, you know, naturally there's a crossover between cleansing and waste. Our management systems, as same as Rachel has described, our parks management system, are going through a process of utilising a very similar system as elsewhere in place. It involves a massive amount of migration of information and that kind of user experience. And we've just managed to bring a project manager on board, but point of clarification, it's not a customer reporting tool. It is for us to be able to manage every seed of grass, every bit of land that needs maintaining, when it needs maintaining, tree planting, maintenance, flower planting, street cleansing. So there's other platforms that the local authority has access to for people to report things. And there's always new products coming on the market as well. So for us, the preference when people have something to report is that they use the generic mailbox to stop that kind of loads of different officers being contacted at any one time. So even if it comes to the generic cleansing mailbox, but we know it's to do with, say, waste, then we know someone is picking that up and linking in really quickly with waste on it as well, which doesn't always happen if people are ringing individuals they happen to know work in the council as well.
Okay, thank you for that, Tracy. You'll be pleased to know that we've finished the coordination and reporting section of the working group today. So now we're going to move on to cleanliness, which I've heard is next to godliness. So it is very appropriate for Michael Locke to kick this one off.
Right, my question is, how often do inspectors patrol for litter? Is there a set schedule?
I'll take this one, and then if there's any more detailed question, I'll look to my esteemed colleague Fran, who's in the room with you. We don't have a set inspection schedule, councillor. It's not just, they go out on patrol. All the inspections are actually intelligence led. It wouldn't be, you know, productive or efficient just to send them out on just walk-arounds. So we do base it on footfalls, known hotspot areas, and seasonal pressures, such, for example, dog ban on beaches, because obviously the enforcement officers are multifaceted in terms of what they can enforce. So, and just from previous experience, you know, where you have out on litter and they tend to be, right, we're going to have a litter targeting day. Sometimes they are, you know, from previous experience, you know, they can just be following people, waiting for them to drop, which isn't the most productive use of resources, particularly given the small number of enforcement officers we've got and the large number of things which they have to look into, particularly on the prevention and also the fly tipping and, you know, the CARO, the keep recycling outside of the waste enforcement. Fran, is there anything you need to add?
No, thank you. I think you've covered everything. Exactly as you said, whilst there are street inspections which are carried out by cleansing, which are reportable, it used to be called LEAMS, but I'm not up to date with the new acronym for it. That's just for street litter inspections. With regards to enforcement, as Rachel clarified, it is all intelligence led.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Fitzgerald, come in on that one then.
Yes, on this issue, the inspectors are really us, the councillors. If we see problems, we need to report them. Like I've mentioned the A483 today. It doesn't need an inspector to come out and look at it. It needs active councillors to look for the rubbish and report it. Now, in Pentlegare, Wendy was the councillor for 20 years. The council estate in Pentlegare was cleaner than some of the private streets because she made sure that any litter was moved. And that's what an active councillor should be doing, reporting the problems for action immediately.
Okay, thank you for that.
Chair, can I come in on that? I'm sorry. I do believe, I know I have answered 2 of your questions, emails in the last fortnight, Councillor Fitzgerald, but there is, if we don't do it the proper way, I know you report them to me and then I put them on to enforcement or whatever, but you are right. Councillors and the residents out there are our eyes and ears. They let us know. But what we must emphasise is doing it the correct way of reporting. I'm not teaching you how to suck eggs, so to speak, but if we go through it through the website, like enforcement at swansea.gov or fly tipping, you will get a better response for the simple reason when you do it that correct way, it's logged in and you were given a reference number. So, and I'm not having a go at you because you haven't a go at us, but what I'm trying to say is, yes, it's down to, sadly, it is down to councillors, but it's also down to the residents to let us know, but through the right programme. Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Anderson. So where were we? That's quite exciting. Number 7 now. I got blown away by the excitement there. Councillor Mark Tribe, good to see you. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Good.
And you,
fire away.
Sorry, Chair, just on the phone call in my ear. Apologies, I have to declare a personal interest in that my eldest daughter, Rebecca Tribe, is part of the waste management team. So if that could be recorded, please. And
yeah, duly noted.
Thank you. If I could merge questions 7 and 8. As you know, Velindre and Llangabell are particular hotspots for fly tipping. And I have to say highways and not so much highway, sorry, the waste unit team have been fantastic in clearing those up. Where a fly tipper has been identified, do we ever prosecute that individual? Thank you.
Fran, can I ask you to take that one in terms of the process?
Yes, thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Councillor Tribe. Yes, we do prosecute where there is no other alternative. Usually, as we previously mentioned in previous scrutiny reports, that we issue fixed penalties, but yes, we do take fly tipping prosecutions to court.
Smashing. Will it be possible to have sight of that report when it does occur?
Yes, of course, no problem at all. We can provide information with regards to the fixed penalties that are issued, which are £400 for fly tipping, and we can also keep you informed of the prosecutions for fly tipping that go forward.
That's excellent. Thank you, Fran. On to question 9. Whenever, on the rare occasions there have been waste collection failures, the waste unit team provide a map and a map of the area affected, and also the street names. That seems to have died a death recently. Is that facility still open to us for councillors? Well, I'm thinking if I could nip it in the, once I receive that information, I can nip it in the bud and get that information out there to the residents. It might take the steam out of their complaints. I just wondering whether that facility is still available. Thank you.
Give that one to Rachel, possibly. I think that I don't know if it was before your time when the maps were issued or
yeah.
there you
Well, our lovely coloured in maps that we used to send out to members.
Precisely.
Yeah. Well, I'm pleased to report to members that apart from the severe weather that we experienced just going into the new year, our collections are stable. We're fully resourced. Our fleet is is working well. So we're not having the scale of operational disruption that you were experiencing, which led to you having daily, weekly emails with lists of which streets weren't being collected. So on the whole, whilst I appreciate sometimes there are pockets of miscollections or no access, they are now by far the exception rather than the rule. So the team aren't doing it as practice every day because there hasn't been a need to do it every day. I completely take the point that when we have disruption, for example, the snow, etc., that some communication out would have been helpful. I just also know how manic it is in the back office trying to get all the information collected in terms of what has and what hasn't been done. I think for me, if the service is stable, it's going to be more, I suppose, a reactive rather than the commitment to do something every day to members. I think it needs to be on, if it's a big disruption, then we should be emailing the affected members, but on a business as usual, that there is no need for it now. What we will have with the digital system, which I explained to Councillor Black earlier, that will give us far more intuitive and timely information, which will be able to be pushed out to members in due course when it's implemented.
Thanks, Rachel. And I have to concur, the service has improved significantly recently.
I'd like to echo that, Rachel. I think all members can agree that we've seen a marked improvement in the resilience of the service. Now, I think the rolling adverts for employment opportunities and that, and I think it's touch wood, it's working quite well now. So thanks for your efforts on that.
Chair, can I also come in? I would like to put on record that our teams now, going back 18 months, as you all aware, it was really hard work. But since we have employed an extra 80 new collection operatives and drivers, I think we seem to have solved the problem, and I am, as the cabinet member for that, I am really happy with the progress of the waste collections. And a big thank you to not only my officers, but the operatives on the front line.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Anderson. Moving on to Councillor O'Brien. You have a question.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, yeah, I'd like to agree with the Cabinet member, Councillor Anderson, because I know, particularly here in Mumbles, I think week after week we were getting complaints about the rubbish collection, and it was weeks on end. And I felt sorry for poor Carl Watkins, who it was probably on my speed dial. So credit where it's due. I think we can all be a critical friend to the council, but I know they were very much under the cosh for about 18 months. But I think we're coming up the other side thanks to those 80 so extra crew who probably are doing the work of about 100. So well done there. I'm on the topic of cleansing. I know some wards and some areas within wards have opted out of the chemical weed spraying programme. I was just wondering, what is the council doing to look at ways of being, shall I say, more bee friendly, or what's the alternative? And I just wonder if any progress has been made there, if any. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Stevens is enthusiastic to answer this one.
Yeah, not so sure about that, Chair, but no, this element is actually a highways function in terms of I assume you're referencing the on-street weed spraying programme that we're doing, Councillor O'Brien. So I know there has been other methods trialled. I believe, if off the top of my head, it was something around with steam cleaners or steaming them out or spraying them out with hot water or something along those lines, as well as a weed ripper that's being used by some of the cleansing. But for the general highways network, I mean, we covered quite an in-depth scrutiny session on this back in September. For the general highways network, at this moment there is actually no better way forward to deal with on-street weeds than glyphosate. Now, I know there are some concerns that do get raised by residents, lobby groups, various things, perhaps even on a national standard, but until that legislation nationally changes, it is the best thing that we can deal with those streets right across. If we were relying purely on weed rippers and things like that, we're just not going to get across the whole network. And I believe, I know some councils have gone entire glyphosate free, but my understanding around that, around discussions I've had with my officers, is that there has been some changes slightly to that because it hasn't quite worked out as they planned. Of course, it is still there for any member who wants to opt out. And Councillor Bryan, if you did want to opt out in Mumbles, you can do so. That's no problem at all. But you'd have to understand the potential constraints that'll come around that, in that there won't be any additional resources diverted from other wards to any ward to deal with additional weeds as a result from stopping the weed spraying programme. Now, I know myself, Councillor Anderson, officers from Parks, as well as Highways as well. We have met on discussion on what we're going to do around our this year's contract around the spraying programme. I do think it could be done a little better by changing perhaps some of the spraying windows, perhaps constricting those windows to a more of a narrow timing. So we're certainly looking at that at the moment. And this is coming from someone who's done his PA1, PA2 and PA6 in weed spraying myself, and but it's I can certainly understand certain concerns, but it's rated as a safe product by legislation. Nothing has changed in terms of that. But it's not something that we look to use, and just for no reason, then, put it that way. So it's used by an operator who is clearly licensed to use it and use safely. On the improvement for things for pollinators, we do our cut and collect program. The seeing it will be extended from next year as well. So there's lots of other things we are doing to try and benefit biodiversity and increase wildflowers and stuff, which could help for our pollinators. So thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Always trust the farmer. He's the one who knows. For reference, Councillor O'Brien, I've had it brought to my attention, the Climate Change and Nature Scrutiny Performance Panel of the 16th of September 25 was where they did that report. So if we want to take a look at that, I'll bring in Councillor Black now.
Yeah, thanks, B. I just wanted to go back to this on the wildflower issue. I'm not sure that actually is in the scope of this particular scrutiny panel, but as I understand it, the wildflowers which we plant through parks are not all native wildflowers, and that when we prepare the ground to put the wildflowers in, we actually use clear phosphate to do that as well. So it does seem to me that there are ways we can improve the use of diversity by using more local wildflower seeds as opposed to the more general ones which you use. So we actually only plant local wildflowers and make sure that when we prepare the ground for planting the wildflowers, that we don't use that sort of weed killer before we do that. I wonder if we could have a look at that.
Councillor Stevens.
Now, I won't go in depth in terms of the prepping the ground beforehand in order for us to plant the wildflowers or take up in the wildflower scheme, because Jeremy knows this inside out, and he unfortunately he's not here. But I do know from my discussions I've had from my own ward in terms with our parks team that we use a variety of mixes. can't remember off the top of my head in terms of the last lot we used, but there were native wildflowers in there. But they are a bit of a variety of a few different things. But in terms of the wildflower scheme itself, I mean, it's up to members to choose if they want to take part in that scheme. You don't have to, but they are very well received by the public in terms of being a bit of a, just something nice to look at. And they do have biodiversity positives because without them being native. Now on the cut and collect, which is what is the whole point of the cut and collect, is to stimulate those native wildflowers by removing the grass, depleting the soil of its nutrients and allowing the stuff that is already there to grow through. They both can actually work hand in hand and side by side to have overall benefits for biodiversity, in my opinion. Yeah. So,
yeah, I mean,
thank you for that.
I do, have the wildflower in my ward, and I very much appreciate it. I just think it should all be local wildflowers, not just the general mix. I think it would be useful, and it would also benefit the wildlife as well and insect life if we were all local wildflowers.
Yeah, just on that, Chair. As in terms by native wildflowers, in terms of what you try in terms of what you're trying to do is encourage what's already there to grow through. So it's different to actually planting a wildflower. I see what you mean, but you think of them as nice to look at. I mean, for our verges and what have you. It's different to what we're doing in terms of encouraging the native wildflowers, but both can play a part. And on terms of the prepping the ground with beforehand, I mean, things might be. It might be quite difficult in terms of covering quite a wide area if you're having to hand rotivate every single area beforehand. So,
okay.
Okay, thank you, Cabinet Member. Now, I did have some hands up from Councillor O'Brien and Tracy. Were they legacy hands, or did you want to come in on it? Either? Going.
I put my hand up. I didn't want to jump in front of Councillor O'Brien if there was a question. I put my hand up just to say that, when the wildflower planting was first initiated, probably about 10 years ago now, it was very much about dealing with austerity and the pressures on maintenance of verges and so on. And it was really focused on creating the sort of bee pollinator corridors in the city. I was going to mention cut and collect, which Councillor Stevens has already covered. That is very much about encouraging Indigenous growth within parks. Jury's out on it. Some ward councillors think it looks a bit messy, and some thinks it's really important to have Indigenous flora and fauna in their parks. So, we're always happy to take feedback on that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor O'Brien, did you want to come in on that?
Only very quickly. No, thanks to Councillor Stevens on that. No, I don't think Mum's got any appetite at the moment to withdraw from the weed spraying programme, because I think we would be inundated with complaints. Although I'm always interested to see if there's any alternatives. But very quickly, would you say that, that machine that I'm guessing some ward ops use for the cutting of the weeds, you can't compare that to the weed spraying programme, can you? In terms of efficiency?
Not in terms of efficiency, no, because we couldn't. If you've got to think of the entire highways network, all the roads that we've got to do, no, you can't, no.
Or even on the pavement, sorry, pavements.
Well, on the pavements, yeah, is where we do the weed spraying program. But I'm talking about perhaps it'll have its place within one specific ward. So say you wanted to cover that in Mumbles and do it, what you wanted to do a number of different areas in Mumbles with it, but now we'd have to replicate that across every single ward in Swansea within the growing period. It would be difficult because obviously the weeds will keep growing and you've got to get around it pretty quick, so you need a lot of those machines and everything to do so.
No, that's great. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that. So that's brought you'd be relieved to know, what was it, the cleanliness section has gone. Now we're on to the tough old section of enforcement, and We'll start with Councillor Jenkins on that. You've got two questions there, 11 and 12, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The first one is on the report 3.3, and it regards weekly reports that are provided. And my question is, are you able to share these fixed penalty reports with ward members? So that way we can highlight on our social media the activities done in our wards. Thank you very much.
I'll interject there. I think you partially answered that one, Fran, earlier, didn't you, with the weekly reporting? Just if you could just focus on the social media and message angle.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course,
that-
no
yeah.
problem. Thank you, Chair. We are always putting forward stories towards our social media to increase information and awareness. With regards to producing fixed penalty notice reports for ward members, I apologise. Again, with the fly tipping data being published at a ward level, we can explore how we can take forward the best way to report the information to all members in a strategic and informative manner that is not too onerous on administrative support in order to provide it. So yes, we are trying to get the messages out there. We are able to provide or to collect the data and collate it, but we need to be more effective. And with the new IT systems, we are hoping that it would be easier to work with and then produce the information that ward members would like for specific timescales. Does that answer your question?
Can I come in on that one, Chair? That's okay.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, thank you. Just to make members aware, there's been a proposal from Cabinet through the budget process to actually increase resources within the enforcement team. So we'll be looking to take that forward over the coming months, and that will be an increase of both enforcement officers and also just some more strategic capacity within the team. So, you know, if members bear with us, maybe that's something we can take forward as like a medium-term action to explore over 26-27 with the new team, how best we can provide holistic range of information with the increase of resources within the team we're going to get. With that, so not yet. So I think the answer is we'd like to, but give us some time and we'll see what we can do.
Oh, thank you for that update, Rachel. I believe there was a budget amendment on diverting resources to enforcement at the last budget, so it's good to see it's filtering through. So
Can I come in again as well? Just a bit of
Yes.
added information, Chair. The last dog fouling FPN was served on the 30th of the 1st to the 30th of the 1st, 26. Was one FPN issued for dog fouling, which is in Kumbula. General waste and litter enforcement, FPNs from April 25 to October 25. There were 35 FPNs issued from April to October 2025, with 30 paid, 5 taken to prosecution, and 1 was withdrawn. So that's just a bit of added information for what the councillor wanted.
As ever, Councillor Anderson, you're ahead of the curve, because that was actually Councillor Jenkins' next question. So, oh, brilliant. So, Councillor Jenkins, hopefully that answers your question 12 as well, but I'd ask the Cabinet member if we could have that like circulated amongst members, you know, just what you just read out on that. Yeah, what you've read out on that piece of paper, if that could be circulated, that'd be brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no names.
Yeah.
As long as there's no names
Right.
to the offenders. But
No, that's
I
fine.
could do that,
GDPR
yeah.
and all that. But Rachel's kindly offered to coordinate the operation.
There we are.
Thank
Lovely.
you. Okay. So, Councillor Jenkins, does that, to your satisfaction, answer your question 12?
Well, no, because the question was, thanks for that information, Cyril, there. Sorry, Councillor Anderson, that's really helpful with them figures. But the question was, you said there's only been one issued in Cumbula in the last 12 months, is it? And the question was, could you split it to ward by ward basis? Like how many have been, done in each ward in the last 12 months for dog fouling? Is that available?
Sorry, Chair, is it okay if I take that? Thank you, Councillor Jenkins. Between the 30th of January 25 and the 30th of January 26, one dog fouling fixed penalty was issued in the Cumbula ward, and it was for £75. Only one was issued.
Okay, well, just an observation on that for me personally, I think it just seems a bit low, that, and they do come up on the social media quite a lot, trying to run a campaign for them to report it to me to try and, highlight the areas and trying to catch them. But if we're only having one in the whole of Swansea over a year, it does seem a bit low to me. I'd welcome your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, keep some brief thoughts there.
Basically, just to clarify, we aren't by law allowed to follow any individual walking their dog with a view to issuing a fixed penalty notice if they fail to pick up after their dog. The issue is that we act or react on an intelligence-based sort of working programme due to the fact that we currently don't have the resources to hang around and wait for people to walk their dogs and then subsequently fail to pick up after them. So the idea is as the team expands, is that we will be looking to put dog patrols in parks, on beaches, etc., with a view to issuing more fixed penalties in relation to dog fouling. The simple thing is we're asking residents if you can give us a time or sort of regular days where individuals are walking dogs and failing to pick up after their dogs, we can then react to that information and direct our resources accordingly. Unfortunately, we don't have the resources just to walk streets following individuals. So that's what we're asking.
That's really helpful. I can put that out as to the ward and explain how it works properly. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, the next question. Oh, look, it's from me, number 13. What is the enforcement approach to highway obstructions such as A-boards, trailers, and abandoned equipment? Now, I'll expand a bit on what I'm looking for here. Trailers, sometimes, I know we operate skip licenses on the highway. It's all part of the street scene. We're looking at things that clutter streets up. For example, sometimes people chain motorcycles, registered motorcycles, onto the pavement, particularly an issue in Mount Pleasant. So what was I asking here? So A-boards, ones where you're walking along either as a commercial street, which we all have in our wards there. What do we do there? Are they all licensed, or are there certain parameters? And yeah, just abandoned equipment as well.
Yeah, I'll take that. E-boards are licensable. So when a business puts a board out, they need to inform our streetworks section that they intend to do that. We'll then assess to make sure there's adequate space available for disabled access, prams, etc., remain in the footpath, and then they are licensed. With regards to abandoned vehicles and trailers, any part of a vehicle that can be towed, or an engine or a chassis, any part of that is classed as an abandoned vehicle. So that can be reported to our abandoned vehicles team, who will then take that on and deal with it. We have 3 branches really that deal with it. We've got unlicensable, which comes through the highways team, licensable that go through the streetworks team, and then the abandoned vehicles go through the specific team based in the Guildhall.
Okay, and then what about things where builders just casually jump a whole pallet of bricks on the road or something like that, or they even do it on the pavement, especially when we've got the construction season in the Brimble area, and I'm sure it affects other wards as well. How do we deal with things like that?
Again, they come through complaints generally. They then go through street works. They will then work with the builders to see if they can put them in a more suitable location. If not, the builders are given time to remove the materials. If they don't comply within a certain amount of time, then we will go and remove them ourselves and recharge our cost to them. And then if they don't come up, we'll then dispose the building materials and recoup some money back that way.
So there is a punitive outcome, is what we're saying. So people just can't just,
Yeah, they can't just dump them and run. No.
Ah, brilliant news. Thank you. Councillor Fitzgerald, are you coming in on my question or are you coming on to your question? Oh, brilliant. I feel flattered. Thank you.
Right. What intrigues me is that ever since the Kingsway was altered, about 3 years ago now, I suppose, Specsavers have permanently had 2 A-boards on the road. Are they licensed? I bet they're not.
I don't know, but I can check. Okay.
Check on it, but they're there all the
I would
time.
imagine it would have been in a national chain, and I would imagine they would have gone. They'd have gone and through the proper procedures and got authorization to put them there. But I will double check anyway.
But as I say, the Kingsway looks good now, and they've gone and put those boards there, and they've been there for at least 3 years.
Okay.
Another question: what are we doing about Sketty? Michael, wake up. Tesco's trolleys. Well, the question to
Come on, in fairness, I'm going to interject there. You can't use this opportunity. You can ask officers questions, but you can't fire questions at other
No, I
councillors.
did. I wasn't.
Yeah.
This is for his information. But outside the
No,
Tesco's
no,
in
I'm
Sketty,
killing it there.
we have a huge pile of delivery trolleys, not customer trolleys, delivery trolleys. I got pictures here for you to see. They're permanently there. And that's when I'm saying planning have got an input to this. How on earth was Tesco's allowed to develop that store with no storage facilities for their deliveries?
Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add on that, because I know you've gone to the efforts of printing out quite a few documents. Happy for you to happy to take that away and come back with you direct on the specific issue you've got with Sketty Ward. Anyway, for Cheryl, okay. I'll pass after the meeting. It's fine. Don't worry about it. There's no problems. Thank you.
That's perfectly fair, if you can follow up Councillor Fitzgerald's concerns. But I'd remind all members, these are an opportunity to ask officers sort of questions, not the cross table on there. Councillor Fitzgerald, you do have question 14.
Yes, specifically, it relates to 2 gardens I've got in Pentlegare. They're council gardens. I was elected in March last year. I had a meeting with the head of housing in the first week in April, and I said, I want the gardens tidied up. The gardens now are covered in brambles. They were waist height. They're now shoulder height. I'm afraid housing got no rules or regulations to deal with the issue. They've passed it down the chain from the head of the department. It's gone right down to a poor guy at the bottom who can't get anywhere and is getting no support. We cannot have houses like this. That's, if we're talking about street scene, that is a street scene I've got in part of Pentlegare. And when I was taking those photographs, a guy came up to me and I was explaining what I was doing. Oh, he said, wait till you see the back garden, 10 times worse. And the back garden is visible from Llewellyn Road. That is unacceptable. No one is doing anything about it.
We'll split this into 2. Councillor Fitzgerald, I'm sure the officers, now you've raised it to their attention in this meeting, will deal with the individual case. If we could focus back on your general question, so I'll make sure, please, officers take up Councillor Fitzgerald's concerns on the individual side, case in question. The question was, what is the enforcement process for overhanging vegetation obstructing the highway? So that was the question that was put. We talked about notice, follow-up and recharge, and how many notices were served in the last 12 months. Just to expand a little bit, I'm aware that there are instances where there are households with overhanging hedges, and I think we're looking at that sort of thing where it's, you know, providing obstruction to giving people a face full of brambles or something like that, that sort of idea. But please follow up Councillor Fitzgerald's questions after the meeting.
Do you want to answer that question? Yes. Okay. It comes through two fields, either picked up by inspectors on the annual inspection routes or safety inspection routes, or it comes through via complaints from third parties. We then go and inspect, or for a third party, they then issued a letter asking to cut back, which is a friendly approach to start with. If there's no response from that, we then back it up with a notice. They have a certain amount of time to comply. If they haven't complied in that time, then we will then go back in ourselves, cut back where deemed dangerous, and then recharge our costs. All right. With regards to the numbers, I haven't had a chance to look at that, unfortunately. This is last minute come to me this morning, so I've not had a chance to compile the numbers, but it is in the hundreds.
Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, just to add on that, Chair, yeah, and thanks for the interjection. I know we're all ward councillors, and they included me, so there's always, you know, there's the want to obviously reference back to your own area, but thanks for change, you know, saying that that we keep the question broad, and as I said, I'm happy to follow up outside of the meeting in terms of Councillor Fitzgerald's specific issue. But yeah, as Jonathan said, you know, I found in terms of that initial discussion beforehand, a lot of the time does actually work, you know, in just trying to get some cutback. It doesn't always, but it can work in that first instance. So it's good to use that that discussion approach right at the start. So.
Okay, so that's enforcement dealt with, so we can all breathe a sigh of relief on that one. Fran, I'm not looking at you. So the next thing is about signage, and you'd be pleased to know I've got a couple of questions about signage here. So first one is there an audit of road and street signs to ensure that they're necessary, well sighted, and to reduce clutter? So I'll tell you where I'm going with this, and I'll come up with a second question later on. When it comes to cleansing, it's a lot easier to clean a street if you haven't got to go behind signs and things like that. I'm after, is there a policy where we don't affix to walls? Because we used to affix some signage to walls, which, you know, avoids the necessary of superfluous amount of metal posts in pavements. Then suddenly when you have to replace them, they're ground, and sometimes they're not ground down fully. We've got our street nameplates on metal posts. You have a look in other cities, and I will reference City of Westminster. You don't see many, if any, street nameplate signs on the road. They're all on the corners on people's houses. I don't think they've got different, you know, type necks in Westminster where they have to crane them or anything. You know, we're all the same human beings. But is the authority actively carrying out an audit of trying to reduce superfluous sort of street clutter? Because it's easier to keep clean.
We don't have anything official in place, Chair. They are picked up as part of the safety inspection regime, so anything that's dangerous or needs cleansing is unsightly. It's picked up and passed over to a different team. It's not a function of my team, so it's with such as somebody else to sign maintenance function. But we don't actually have an audit of every individual sign. But we are removed. If you see it's not necessary as part of the safety inspection, it is asked to be removed and taken down. With regards to fixing to walls, etc., because it's private property, it gets quite difficult to get consent and then damage, then request for people to say you've damaged my wall because you drilled it to put my sign up, things like that. So we've got to be careful. We've got to weigh up the cleanliness of removing the posts with the potential for people coming back and saying, you know, you've hit my wall, you've damaged this, things like that. So we're very careful what we do in that respect.
I will follow up on that one, because as I'll bring back the City, you know, Westminster Council again. Every street nameplate is on a wall. would it be worth researching with other councils that actually do it, how they overcome these difficulties in saying, no, we're just a bit worried that we might get the action here? Because if other councils in the UK do it, they must have some sort of a system to get rid of all the, you know, the superfluous stuff on there. And I suppose a question to the, you know, the cabinet member, would the time be right, you know, when you've got an opportunity to either commission some sort of a paper or a council policy on street clutter as you know, as part of work? Because if it's something we haven't got a definitive sort of steer on, it might be something worth suggesting.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. For the record, I do like the Westminster signs as well, and it is something that I've touched on conversation in the past with one of our highways team's leaders. As you might have also spoke to him about it yourself, and that's perhaps where it's coming from. So, but yeah, a specific street clutter, usually if redundant signage or something comes up, then I'll periodically raise it with the team. I'd expect of the council as well, and we could certainly look at it on a case-on-case basis. I mean, we recently had a walkthrough as part of our Tidy Towns grant through some of the district centres that were having it, and we went through some redundant signage posts that had been left there for some time now. Unless stuff is reported direct to me or specifically to any ward councillor, then we don't, you know, it might not always be picked up straight away, but we are looking to remove some of them. But it's something I take on board and have a further conversation at a later date, Chair.
So the second question I've got is I think I'm obsessed with street name plates at the moment, but it's another aspect of them is in this city we've probably got about 5 different varieties of street nameplate. And if we're talking this, you know, this working group is about street scene. So, you know, you've got different fonts, different shapes, and all sorts going on. Some date back to the 80s, and some are now. Some of them have got this amazing feature of invisible ink on them. I mean, they only lasted about 3 years. Yeah, so the first sort of question on that is, did we get a refund on those street signs which you can't read because they've faded? Do we have to replace, you know, do the whole sign? Do the sign supplier offer something like transfers to stick on them? Because it seems to me that every time a street sign's got the slightest defect in it, we have to order a complete frame as well, and, you know, grind the old frame out, put a new frame in at expense, use a different font. So the two questions are there any chances that we'll ever head to uniformity of street signs? Because I think you know, a uniform sort of sign where they're not all different and horses for courses would give the city more of an identity, or the council more of an identity. And can we, you know, do work that's necessary when a street sign has failed instead of automatically ordering, you know, a metal plate with 2 pedestals on it? Is there a better way of doing it?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Thanks, Chair, and again, you're either clairvoyant or you know the conversations I've already been having with one of my highways team leaders on this specific topic, where potentially looking at plates to go over the existing nameplates we actually discussed. So well done. But yeah, so on that one, so as you're probably aware, in terms of there was some changes within the teams within highways, from where the old street name in place used to sit with a different officer who has now retired, moved over, and we're going through a lot of the backlog on them. There was, I believe, and Bob will probably correct me if I'm wrong here, as it was a little bit of time ago, we did purchase a batch of street signage that did seem to fade a lot quicker than perhaps it should have been. Now I'll have to pick up with him on the discussions he's having around that, and what things we're going to be doing to sort that. But seeing uniformity in the street signs is certainly something that I would like to see, and maybe putting more money into street signage this year and next is the intentions. And one thing which I've raised that I would like to see is Right, I went through the different fonts initially with one of our previous officers, and there is like a Highways National. I can't remember the name of the font now. But there's a Highways National font that we did kind of finally agree on. But one thing I would like to see coming in from as soon as, which we're looking to put in on our next batch of signage that we do, is a return to the Lord Mayor's crest on the signs like we used to have as well, as Chair. So I think it does just add to it, really. So.
I appreciate that it will be, probably costly. Not, nobody's asking you to replace every sign at once, but starting a new brand off gets rid of the uniformity. But what I'm trying to say is, if we get a design, can we stick with it? Because, as I said, Westminster signage has had the same signage since 1975.
Yeah, that's so I've only been in post since 2022, so I'm not really sure when you're referring to, but in discussions with my officers, uniformity is something I would like to see where possible. And again, if we can get it, perhaps it is going to be a little change, because we did used to do the Lord Mayor's crest on our signage. Some of the perhaps more seasoned members on this panel might be able to tell me exactly when that was, but I've always liked the Lord Mayor's crest, and I'd like to see a return on our signage anyway, and we're looking to put that in as soon as. So.
Okay, thank you for that. I was just glad that great minds sing alike. I'll bring Councillor Fitzgerald in.
Or perhaps I'm on the next question.
I don't know.
On the fading issue.
Yes, we've talked about fading just now.
Right. Fading issue is fine when we've got west-facing road signs. There's a lot of them. Durbanvale Road at the bottom doesn't exist. It's blank. That's a beautiful blank. Yeah, that was in my area. That's a blank. But more importantly, I've got a Banana Island in Pentlegare, and we had 3 no waiting signs. They all disappeared into nothing. Top picture there. Yeah. So it's not just road signs, it's any signage which faces due west and is being burnt out by the sun.
First of all, Councillor Fitzgerald, I think Councillor Stevens has said he'll be, looking into what recourse we've got from the companies that have supplied us with these obviously substandard products here, because we've all seen signs that have been up for decades that still look like they're new and they just need a clean rather than so they're not damaged. So Councillor Stevens will take that one up. Councillor Locke, have you got a point to raise too?
This fading, I think, is caused more by the sun. On the ones facing south, they fade. On the ones facing north, there are roads in Sketty where the signs were put up at exactly the same time, and the ones facing north are okay, and the ones facing south are invisible.
I think you're being over generous there. I think it's everywhere in the world gets some sunshine, even our city.
But
yeah,
I can actually show you the street in Sketty.
But I think we're talking about the quality of the signage that's a bit more robust to sun. So, Councillor Mark Tribe has got a couple of questions. 17 and 18, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Yes. In a similar vein to your question, Chair, I've noticed, as have others as well, especially tourists, that the signage around the city centre is pretty poor with illegible signs and the absence of signs. I just wondered, are there ever any surveys committed to dealing with this? Thank you.
As I said previously, there's no actual physical audit of the signs. They're just picked up as part of the random routine safety inspections. Where they are illegible, they are notified and reported, but there's no actual physical audit of the signs independently. Okay.
I'm more than happy to perform that task for you if required. And the next question in regarding replacement street signs, I had occasion to order a replacement for the street sign just before Morrison Hospital, so it's an important route. And it took 18 months to replace. I just wondered why would it take so long to have signs replaced? Whether they done in batches before you order them? Thank you.
I'll take a shot, Chair. Not specifically sure why that specific example was taken 18 months. You know, I'd like to certainly think going forward now that it'll be done a lot sooner than that. We were at one period, again, it goes to the changeover around the street signs I had there's been some change-ups with the teams with one person retiring. We were previously ordering them in batches or larger batches in terms, try to save on cost and try and maximise what we can do with our budget. But we are now looking at just addressing what we can in the backlog as and when, really. So yeah.
Have we used the same supplier, or do we use a variety? Do one as a supply all councils, or do you know on that? And what would you say the average turnaround time is? Jonathan might know more.
Yeah, we've got one supplier, a company called Standard Signs. They're the main supplier. We can use other companies if necessary, but we have the one. They are done in batches. Timescale I was discussed this morning with the manager of the team, and the time has come down dramatically. It's now down to about 4 months for batches of 100. So this is much quicker than it used to be. Okay.
Sorry, sorry, Chair, not to disagree in terms of Jonathan and that. We are looking to amend that going forward, so we can do it in to try and reduce that number. And
absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Yes, Pentlegare. I've got a new housing development called Park Mawr, which is about 180 odd houses. 5 of those houses face Swansea Road at the very top. People who moved in June were unable to get deliveries because the number of their house was beyond the lower part of Swansea Road. You had Swansea Road, you turned into Brindary Close into Park Mawr, but there are 5 houses beyond facing Swansea Road, and they are in Swansea Road. Anyway, I raised the issue when I was getting complaints from new residents, they couldn't get deliveries, and you'd be delighted to hear that when I chased again earlier this year, I was told the signage is imminent. That's encouraging. I hope their interpretation of imminent is the same as mine. I want it there by the end of the month.
Once again, Councillor Fitzgerald, even though we're entertained by the anecdotal stories, you've said it in a public committee. I'm sure the officers will now take that on board. Yeah, could you get back to Councillor Fitzgerald 1-to-1 with the definition of imminent and a timescale for him, please?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we've done. Oh, it's me again. Lighting and obstructions. Thank you very much, Mr. Hurley, for coming along at short notice on that. Because lighting is a part of our street scene. So obviously we've had the changeover from the old, what people call sodium bulbs, and there's been a lot of investment in new columns as well, replacing the old rusting ones. Now, it's just an observation, but are the lights, the actual new bulbs, the LED bulbs, starting to fail in clusters and areas? Because we're noticing a lot of outages of isolated lights, but in the same area. From inspection, it looks like a street light's is an LED with about 12 dots on it, and then suddenly they get dimmer or only 2 work, and then it's good night Vienna for the bulbs. So are they all breaking down at once because they were all put in at the same time? Is the question, I suppose.
2 things on that. We've got an aging underground cable network, so we are getting a lot more underground faults on the aging network, so that is affecting some of the sections. So some of the sections of lights out, that is part of that issue. But with regard to the LEDs, some of the new LEDs we've had, there's been some failures on them, but they covered under warranty, so they go back to the manufacturer and we get the money back for the warranty on that, which includes our labour and the material cost. So there are some of that, but obviously when we started the LED programme back in 2012, those LEDs now are coming around a cycle to be back to be replacing the street lights again. So that's where we are. We are getting some failures on those. Some of the lights which are turning blue, or some of the lights are fading, they're under warranty. So we are, once people tell us, we are replacing those lights. So
We have observed these blue lights, and thankfully we don't have any red light areas in this city. Councillor Fitzgerald. Oh, Councillor Stevens wants to come on that first of all.
Yeah, so sorry, Chair. Just to add as well, just to put on record my thanks to the public lighting team, you know, on what they've done in terms of the light, because we're actually at 97% coverage for our LED street lights, so that's positive one.
Councillor Fitzgerald,
Yeah, just a question about the ownership of street lights. I'm under the impression that in parts of my ward, Morgan Close, Ryan Close, the responsibility for the lights is still with coastal housing. Am I right there?
If you could couch a general answer to that on where you've got unadopted or shared, you know, split ownership of lights, and I'm sure you'll get back to Councillor Fitzgerald with an individual one-to-one complaint.
Yeah, no, I think you covered it there, Chair. Sorry, I was going to say something along the same lines as well. You know, appreciate that everyone has potential burning ward matters and wants to raise them, but I've not, even as cabinet member, I've not had this raised with me direct outside of this forum, so we don't need to wait until scrutiny just to come and raise specific ward issues in that way. You can email direct or contact via phone or whatever other way.
I've got somewhere, and I can't lay my hands on it now, but I'm sure I've had an email from Coastal Housing that the reason they hadn't repaired the light is they needed a cherry picker. And they didn't want to hire a cherry picker to replace one bulb. They wanted more to fail before they hired in a cherry picker. Now, I might be entirely wrong, but that's the impression I've got.
That, as I said, Councillor Fitzgerald, this is a scrutiny panel. We're talking about council-owned street scenes. Yeah, if you want to you know, I'm sure the lighting team will coordinate with the housing association to see what their responses are in the individual case. We can, to assist you, ask a general question: is what sort of arrangements do you have when you have other owners of the highway, such as social housing, where it is an adopted highway? How do you coordinate with them to do repairs?
Basically, if it's unadopted or it's private, the coastal, whoever, they've got their own electrical contractors to do their work. So their agreements is on their site for them to maintain it. It's not council. So we do not put staff in there to do that.
But that was the issue. They didn't want to waste money, as they saw it, on replacing one bulb by having to hire in a cherry picker. Let's get some more failures before we hire in the equipment.
I think we've gone on that one a bit. I've got one. What is the timescale and process? A few of you may remember we had a tree services scrutiny panel before. So unfortunately, a lot of the questions were for highways, but we didn't have the foresight to invite highways along. So it's probably our fault more than highways' fault, I suppose, isn't it? So when tree services take down trees, if they're failing or diseased or something like that, they don't actually remove the root bed or the stump itself. A common sort of a trait that happened through that scrutiny working group was, oh no, that's not us, that's highways, that's not us, that's highways. So what is the sort of the turnaround time from a tree being sort of felled for whatever reason it had to be felled? Because we do see quite a lot of perilous sort of stumps, either ranging from sort of 18 inches to 3 feet. And sometimes if you haven't got a functioning LED light, it's more easier to trip over them as well. So you've got almost the perfect storm there. So, what's the sort of procedure and Jen on that, please, John?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Thank you, Chair. There's been agreement recently, actually, that when we do cut trees down, we leave at least 1.2 metres in height, so they are visible to people. So that issue of not being able to see them tripping over them has been taken out of the equation now completely. With regards to the removal, it's all done on priority. If it's a high-risk area, we'll prioritise it. If it's a low risk, then we might need TM, for instance, for things like that. So it's batching them up. And then just program that way. We have external contractors generally come into the work for a specialist kit, depending on the size of the route as well. So it's not just a simple process. It's quite complex, really. So, but with the high risk ones, they are removed straight away where we can. The others are sort of batched up and done in groups of like 6 or 7 a day.
It does appear that all the feedback we got from the tree services that we have now got a legacy of sort of unwisely planted trees. You know, the all trees are lovely, but sometimes these are plainly in the wrong place, or they didn't have properly engineered tree pits when they were planted. So we're having to play catch up 40 years later after the program, which I'm sure is very frustrating and resource draining. Bear in mind this is a larger a problem is actually coming more frequently now. Would it be an idea, probably a question for the cabinet member, if the authority was to sort of explore the idea of getting like in-house machinery rather than having to go out to hire and wait? Could we see what sort of how big the extent of the problem is first of all? Because it seems to be growing a little bit.
Well, I know specific avenues of stump grinder myself, to be honest, but I'd happily take that away, and I'll come back to you in terms of what would be needed for each specific trees. I mean, but it is appreciate and understand there's a lot in uplands, isn't there? Which I so sure why you're affected.
Oh, I'm talking citywide.
Okay. But yeah, it is sad to see these go though, but they are damaging infrastructure as well. So, but it's trying to find a bit of that balance, really. So, yeah.
So, we're on to the last section before the summary question. It's good news, isn't it? 21 out of 24 we're on. We're making excellent progress. So we'll have the pleasure of bringing in Councillor O'Brien for 3 questions on the trot now.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and put them because I appreciate time's running away. So I'll try and do 21 and 22 in one. What proactive maintenance plans exist for green spaces citywide, rather than, sometimes I also notice it's more ad hoc or reactive. And when it comes to prioritising resources, I appreciate every councillor, every ward wants to sort of fight over, as we see tonight, resources going into their wards. How do you prioritise where you go first? So, yeah, maintenance plans, do they exist? And secondly, how do you prioritise?
I'll come in on this one. Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Councillor O'Brien. Yes, all the green spaces are part of a maintenance plan. The best laid plans, of course, change. Should we have, particular waterlogging issues, or there's a block culvert, or there's a storm, or whatever, can change that. But every playing field, open space that comes under the parks team's responsibility is part of a rotated schedule. It's all planned maintenance in that respect. We have an agreement over things like bowl screens, football pitches, some sort of open spaces which are not necessarily classified as parks or like recreation grounds, that will have a different regime to some other spaces. We see wildflower areas, as mentioned earlier, but all of them are under some sort of rotated programme. And that does change, say, depending on incidents and issues that come up, in particular, different seasonal demands. So we might not be able to do some maintenance on a field that is going through some kind of restoration to be ready for the next playing season, for example. But in terms of prioritising, it is basically a case of, does it offer a risk of life and limb? Is there an issue here that we need to go in straight away and cut something back? Do we need to remove a tree? Is there a forthcoming match that we've known about for ages, but our resources have been deterred, redirected to a storm, and then we've got to try and get in there really, really quickly. Amongst the various services, it comes down to, is there a health and safety risk? Is there a kind of clear issue and risk to people, really, for prioritization? Otherwise it's business as usual on our maintenance programs.
Thank you, Tracy. Just as a bit of a follow-up, if councillors did want to get in touch, if they got green spaces in their area, to sort of engage with officers in terms of what that maintenance plan looks like, is that something that's sort of readily available for councillors, or does it vary?
It is.
Not
No,
to put you
it
on the
is.
spot.
No. I mean, we do know when things are rotated. I think, in fairness, you've asked those questions in the past, in particular.
Sorry.
It's
Yeah.
okay. It's fine. In particular, where we've been waiting for new equipment to come. I think the perhaps some reticence of sharing those in the past, because it could be that everyone's expecting someone to turn up on a Wednesday and something has happened on the Monday that has diverted the resources. So there's been a bit of maybe reluctance to say we absolutely, by hook or crook. I think we're really happy to share maintenance schedules with that understanding that in any number of events, someone could call in sick, somebody could, I don't know, have some other issue, and we might have to redeploy people, or there might be an incident in town where resources get redeployed as well. So just if it's taken in the spirit of, the best
Not totally set in
intentions.
stone. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you, Tracy. And Chair, do you want me to go on to the last one?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I know this is probably like a bit of a finger in the air, but what level of budget would allow for more of a proactive response and a reactive response in terms of cleansing wastes and highways?
I'll go from my point of view first. I think we already do have a proactive response. We have, city centre teams. We have our hinterland teams. They're broken up into areas, as I mentioned to Councillor Black earlier. They are all rotated. We do rely on volunteering for weekend work as well. High demand in high footfall areas, lots of rubbish generated in the city centre over the weekend, for example. So it's proactive in the way it's planned. And I mentioned with all the green spaces. So I'm not sure that I can sort of say that, if we had another set of teams. I think what we've learned this last year is how easily resources can be diverted, because we've had so many storms. So it's not a straightforward answer. You could have a year where it's really nice, easy weather, and everyone turns up for work when they're supposed to turn up, and everything is delivered as planned. And then and nobody would fly tip. Nobody would throw rubbish out of their car windows. We wouldn't have people barbecuing on the beaches. There's the combination of human behaviours, but I think we do have as well managed a proactive approach as we can with the information we can foresee, really. That's not to say we wouldn't want to have a team for every single phone call, or it's almost like you want a squad, isn't it? Like you'd have some kind of task force, and then even if we had that, they'd phone in sick sometimes. So
Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, no, just to add, Tracy hit the nail spot on with that. To be honest, she hit the nail on the head, because I was going to say the same thing. I don't feel as if it is reactive. We do always try and be proactive where we can, and our departments and officers certainly do. I mean, we got the excellent CWAT team that I know Francesca's referenced before in terms of sorry, Councillor Ryan, in council, as well as the highways weed hotspot team that do excellent work at hotspots. There's obviously going to be some reactive elements to it, as Tracy outlined in terms of storms and things like that. But I think across the board is certainly a proactive approach. And I know Councillor Anderson and myself have been working on looking to put additional funding into into cleansing in terms of dealing with active travel routes, and because obviously we have more active travel routes coming online, which adds to potential pressures, and we're looking to address that going forward anyway, Chair. So,
okay, thank you for that, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, just to go on further, another bit of good news. Well, we've managed to succeed more revenue for the Seaward stream. We are looking to build it up at 50% more. So that's an extra 4 teams we'll be having. So that will encourage the ward councillors. I would emphasise this, make sure that the ward councillors give us the work to get them other 4 teams going. Also in the city centre, we are looking to employ 2 new deep clean teams, which will be just where the heaviest footfall in the city centre is going to be. They will be there making sure that it's pristine for shoppers, tourists, and whatever. And yourself, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor Anderson. I hope you're not going to get in trouble with the leader for stealing his thunder on his budget presentation. Yeah, that he's probably going to announce. So yeah, you never know. He could always fill in with Doctor Who. Now, on that we've got Councillor Baker. Councillor Baker, good to see you.
Good to see you too. On the green spaces within the Pendary area up here, we run a lot of litter picks, which do help with the council keeping our green spaces as clean as possible. But we do get the odd fly tip in which we got to pull the council in. It is good for communities to set up these litter picks, especially with the young children, and young parents will come along up here, we find now. But it is a good idea that we do link in with the council. We do have some offer from the district housing that the estate caretaker comes along too. So it's just an idea for other estates if they want to use that, because it does help and it does keep the litter down in the green areas within the estates of Swansea. That's all.
Yeah, and I think we all appreciate the efforts that voluntary groups put in. Right, to summarise, I've been given a script for this question, which is unlike me. I'm normally like a loose cannon, people say. So the question is, if councillors could support one change to strengthen the street scene as a whole, whether cultural, structural, or technological, that would make the biggest difference. So what would you put money into, I suppose, if you had the choice? Officers, please.
Shall I go first, Chair?
Please break the ice.
I know. Well, it's a really difficult one to try and coordinate. I'd just like to reflect back on Councillor Baker's comments, because I sort of indicated to colleagues something not massively different, which was about expectation and behaviours of our communities and how we can all be good representatives in the community. Our libraries, several of them are litter picking hubs. We work with Keep Wales Tidy. Our cleansing team will give groups a sort of briefing on what you should and shouldn't touch, how you should and shouldn't separate rubbish, and what should and shouldn't go in together, and so on, and how to do it safely. We also find it is a real bringing the community together. So part of my response had been, that sort of active acknowledgement that, the council is not like a kind of super parent who will be able to take care of and tidy up after the several 100,000 of our residents, and to, also help sort of be advocates for the service as well. One of the things I really, kind of was heartened by when cleansing came into our service area was how proud the cleansing staff are when they do a good job, how good they feel. It's a very visible, impactful result in a short amount of time. You look at officers, they got to do long-term strategic work. They don't necessarily see the economic impact for years. But, you know, the cleansing team respond really well to just an acknowledgement that they are human and they work hard and they would like to have that acknowledged, because it's quite obvious when people are criticising the council on social media and so on. And in that respect, if I was going to just land it and say one thing that my team have suggested would help, is that everyone just uses the single point of contact, because quite often we'll have one thing to be reported, but it may be that 3, 4, 5 different people have contacted the 3, 4, 5 different people that they know personally. And then everybody is running around doing stuff, and you might take a whole day until everyone realizes they've all been trying to resolve the same one small single issue that could have been sorted in an hour. So I've been asked to feed that back.
Thank you for that. And I think we'll on that point, we will end there because we're nigh on 2 hours. Can I really thank both cabinet members and all officers that have attended today? Your answers have been sort of informed, and I know you've got a couple of tasks to undertake afterwards. I think on behalf of this working group, can I thank you for your time today? You're free to leave.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks all.
Thanks, Chair. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Chair, can I just
Bye.
an added thing? Thank all my officers, the ones online and you, for all the hard work of putting this report together, and thank you for having us. Cheers.
Pleasure as always, Cyril. A pleasure.
Thank you very much,
Thank
everyone.
you
Can I
all.
ask the
Good
wonderful
evening.
members online
Bye.
just to stay on just for a few more moments? Thank you.
We will be very brief in putting these discussion and conclusions together. Okay, we'll be structured. We've got this. Yeah. Right. I think the officers did quite well in answering our concerns on that one. But are there any glaring suggestions that we've got that can arise from what we've talked about today? If we just go round, I suppose. So, Councillor James, Linda, have you got anything that's sprung to mind that we could, just ask officers about in the letter from this working group?
Extra questions. I think we asked a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I think we just need to list those questions and the answers that we've had.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So nothing jumps out to you specifically that you want to chase through.
No.
Okay. Councillor O'Brien.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think it was a really good meeting, actually. It was quite long, isn't it? And to be fair,
Yeah.
they had quite a number of questions. The only thing that sprung into mind, interesting to see what Cyril said towards the end. So I'm going to use first name terms, but Cyril said towards the end about the cleansing. So I'd be keen to know, with those extra ward operatives, what that will look like in the future, or what, I'd like to know what the plans are for that. Are we going to have like an extra, I know like for a 3 ward member, we get 6 days. What will it look for what will it look for Linda, particularly the single ward member counters? Because I appreciate the likes of, say, Linda and say my dad in Gower, they only get 2 days per month. Well, look at the size of Gower and the footfall it has in the summer. To do 2 days, it's like a needle in a haystack, really. So I'd just be interested to see, is it going to be a standard you know, an extra day, or are single ward members going to be benefiting from that?
Yeah, I think we won't. I think the question we've got to ask the cabinet member there is a bit of more of an amplification on what on the bold statement he's just made.
Yeah.
Because I think it's pretty major what he actually said.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I don't think you know, I wasn't sure whether it should just be brought up in a scrutiny working group, to be honest with
It
you,
has
or
now.
whether yeah, but it's cat's out the bag now. So
No, well.
if Rachel could formulate something for
I'm
there,
sure
and
Rachel will do a wonderful job illustrating what we mean by
I'm
that.
sure she will indeed. Yeah, as always.
But
Okay.
also, Peter, about your interest in what Andrew said about the mayoral, the civic logo, the crest on the street scenes. Just obviously, they're obviously going through that process at the moment. So I'd be keen to see what sort of process that's going through and what that will look like.
Oh, you just want them to not the fade, isn't it? So we can read them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basic service. Councillor Baker, anything that sort of jumped out at you that you think we should put in the letter?
Yeah, to do with what Councillor Anderson said in the end with the CWAT team, I have used them trying to access the site to put in for the CWAT team.
Oh, yeah.
It keeps rejecting me all the time.
Oh,
and
no.
I've had to hand these into Cyril. And it's like Cyril comes on to me, won't put nothing in for the CWAT. I said, you try. And I handed him my mobile. I said, try. So he tried, completely would not let me in. So at the moment, I'm CWATing by giving Cyril certain list of certain streets or whatever need to be done by the CWAT team. And it's quite awkward not accessing the point which they tell you to go to. And it's really frustrating because I don't think the site, what they got
I
for
know.
the CWAT team is not very easy to access.
Right, what we'll do on that one, rather than put that one in the letter, because we didn't really sort of bring it up in the meeting.
No, I know.
We can raise it, you know, because sometimes that form is a bit difficult. And one thing I don't like as well is you don't actually get a receipt back for it, because you can't.
No,
sometimes you forget what you put on the thing in the first place. Councillor Jenkins, have you got anything that you want, you know, has risen up from the questions we asked that you want to press in a letter?
Yes, please. So I'll put it. I'll suggest it, and as a team, you can decide whether I'm correct or not. Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, with the dog pooing, right? They've issued one a year in a year now. You know, I think that's unacceptable in it. But they don't advertise the fact that they can't follow people and they rely on intelligence. Okay, so that meant they need to, I think, run a campaign. I certainly will be in my ward now, explaining that to people. That we need that intelligence, you know. So I'll be doing it locally, but they should be doing it throughout the city, really, and telling people, look, you know, we just can't. We need that, and if people then know, then and perhaps like the CWAT, or they can then, you know, tell me, and I can, you know, that's what I've been trying to do, but that's one thing. Anyway, I won't harp on about that.
So what we just pop on there. So I think what the questions that we might want to ask in the letter, I think, is about sort of messaging about keeping the environment clean to dog owners, something like that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
because you don't want to go putting out like you know, we can't follow dogs and owners around or stuff like that. But I think the shifting the onus onto informing the public that they can report in. Do you think?
Well, we need the intelligence. We need them to know, you know, what to do, and I don't think they really understand it. I mean, obviously we didn't understand it. I mean, you know,
but it comes through messaging,
and as managers, really, it's clearly not working, is it? If you're finding one person in Swansea for dog pooing, I mean, how are you running that process? Is not working.
Yeah,
clearly.
Well, you might want to put something up. I mean, we'll have a chat with Rachel there. I'm going to go round there because I know time's marching on.
Can I say another thing?
Yes.
They put on the report that they're having regular meetings, and then they say they're having one every 6 months or every 2 months. Well, that's not a regular meeting, is it?
But Rachel could ask for clarity in what minutes we could have. Yeah.
Well, how
Or
often do they meet?
Yeah. Well, as I said, we got different answers there. They were probably well intentioned, but I think we can clarify that with Rachel's suggestion in a letter. Councillor Locke, have you got anything that you want to go in the letter?
No, I think I was very reassured by Cyril Anderson saying that he's going to beef up the CWAT.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something that does need beefing up. I'd also like to mention, I should have mentioned to him, the access to the CWAT site as my fellow councillors.
Well, we've covered that. Is there anything fresh?
It's actually not very good.
Yeah. Okie doke. And Councillor Fitzgerald, is there anything raising from the questions that you want to put in the letter? Nothing about specific issues, generally.
Specific issues.
Yeah, I know.
Topic was street.
Mike.
Yeah. The topic was street scene, and the main road from the northwest into Swansea is the A483 Carmarthen Road to the city centre. You have a look at the back garden boundaries opposite Wicks.
Yeah, but
that should never be allowed. This is why I'm saying the feedback needs to go to planning as well, not just highways and housing and waste.
Well, what we can do, we can ask a general question without, about legacy from planning decisions. How are they? We can certainly do that, but we can't really start putting, specifics in, as we say. But legacy from planning issues, how can we? And can we sort that out? Okay. All I'd like to put in is like an update on sort of the policy of unifying street naming plates, and to question about whether we can actually start to put them on buildings, and also signs as well. Look at other councils as well, not just poo-poo it, saying, "Oh, we're worried about what the householder might say," because other councils clearly do it, and the streets are easier to clean. Okay. So on that. Thank you all very much for attending. It's been a long one. We've done a lot of work here. We've got 24 questions, and have a good evening, and let the adventure continue. See you all soon.
Thank you.
Well done, Chair.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, all.
Yeah,
Bye then.
Thanks, Rachel.
Bye.